Because I literally told my boss on the Friday, hey, Syracuse wins on Saturday. I'm not coming Monday. I'm not coming Tuesday.
I'm not coming into work.
I'm coming on Wednesday, and I'll tell you that we won the title.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Control the Narrative, a podcast where we control the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to make sure you catch our weekly podcast. And if you're local around here, we appreciate your attention as always. If I sound a little bit different, it's because I finally hooked up this mic that my buddy Ray Russ gave me. Shout out to Ray Russ. It's like a blue, what is it? Blue mic, blue bunny mic or some shit like that. So going to be rolling with this moving forward. Hopefully it is a little more pleasing to everyone's ears and in the most non-sexual way ever. With that being said, training camp is underway. The Blazers camp has already been suspended because of positive COVID tests within the organization. A lot going on, honestly, even though it's just training camp. Melo got a new hairdo, or an old hairdo, however you want to refer to it. But to go over all of that, I'm going to bring on my guy Lionel, or as a lot of people call him, Elmac. Elmac, what's good, dude?
What's happening?
Nothing much, man. First off, like, he was just telling me real quick off camera, he got home like 3 minutes before this. So respect and appreciate your dedication to coming on and joining us tonight.
Well, I told you, like, I've been trying to get on this, and when I saw you posted a couple really good ones, and some people had some really good perspective on Melo and, you know, just how he's been treated, and, you know, like, so I go way back, like, before people knew Melo was Melo, and you know, I've been a follower of this podcast and just everything you do on the gram. So it's like, when I saw the last one, this is like, I got to get on. Like, I got to start bugging him until he. So here I am. Here I am.
Of course, man.
It takes long for me to crack. Either it's a slow week or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. We you know, we've been talking through Instagram DM for a minute. So, you know, you're like, yo, let me get on. I'm like, all right, yeah, it's definitely time. So long overdue, Elmac. You kind of teased it a little bit. You've known about Melo for a while now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into basketball, how you got into the NBA, how you got into Melo, and just your basketball fandom as a whole?
Okay, wow. So basketball, probably the person that brought me into the world of basketball was Dr. J. I really kind of picked up on Dr. J when he played for the Sixers. You know, just this incredible high flyer. Like, he just was doing things that no one else was doing. And then, you know, I really didn't say pick a team. Like, I couldn't say that the Sixers was my team, but I was just like in awe of this guy. So then, you know, as I grew, you know, there was the huge rivalry between the Celtics and the Lakers in the mid 80s. And you know, kind of everyone at school kind of picked a side. You either were a Celtics fan or a Lakers fan. It's like, well, I don't really like either team, but I guess I'll say the Lakers just cause. But then I think really where my fandom, you know, took off was the 85 draft when they drafted Patrick Ewing. And I'm just like, well, why do you like this guy? Like, what is it about Patrick Ewing? And at the time, you know, I kind of was watching college basketball at the same time. And I like Syracuse. So that's kind of where the college piece came from. So here I like Syracuse. I don't have an NBA team. And they draft this guy, Patrick Ewing. Well, I know at the time he played for the Hoyas. So he was a rival. So I didn't like him. Didn't like him. But then I heard his history and where he went. So his history, he's Jamaican. And I am, both parents are from Jamaica. So that was like, if I'm picking a team, I guess I picked this guy, and I guess this is my team. And I just said, I'm never changing teams. That's it. I don't care if they win 10 games or they win 70. This is my team. So here it's been, you know, geez, it's been 35 years being a Knicks fan. And, you know, for people to, you know, to take in this, like, you've liked basketball that long. This is like, I've just absolutely, like, football is my first love. but basketball is a very close second. So, you know, all the things in the 90s from, you know, the rivals with the Pacers and the Heat and Reggie Miller and Jordan sending us packing during the playoffs, like it goes on and on and on and on. You know, geez, I still cry about the 94 finals when Stars got that shot blocked. See, I talk about the block first in game 6. And if they ran it a different way and they ran it not with Hakeem Olajuwon on the pick and roll, he might have got it off. And if it got off, it was going in, and we could have been NBA champions. So it didn't happen. And then there was the miracle run in '99 with Camby and Sprewell and Houston. And, you know, then it hasn't been the same really. We like we barely won one series, and then we got hosted by the Pacers. And even when that happened, that was the weekend of my bachelor party. When the Pacers put it on us, and it almost ruined the weekend. Almost.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it.
So, you know, and, you know, again, you know, if I kind of now tie in Melo, so, hey, I'm a Syracuse fan at the same time. So, you know, I've gone through, you know, I saw the tail end of Derek Coleman, and then we went to Billy Owens, and then, you know, fast forward a little bit, you know, Lawrence Moulton, which is one of my favorite players, but then we land on, you know, say, hey, Syracuse is going to be good this year. They got this kid. His name's Carmelo Anthony, and he is a walking bucket. And sure enough, I start watching him, and no one can stop him. Like, he's doing things like that a fifth-year pro would be doing. And from his mid-range game to being able to take guys, you know, off the dribble at his size, it just didn't make sense. But it was like, I was absolutely in awe of him.
At what, 18, 19?
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, he's destroying seniors. And in the Big East, no less, like one of the Power 5 conferences at that time. So fast forward, you know, here we are, semifinal game of the 2003 NCAA tournament. And my brother and I are sitting in our living room in Scarborough, which is like a suburb. It's like Brooklyn of New York, to kind of give you context. And this is like, I told my brother, if Syracuse wins this game, they played Marquette, which was Dwayne Wade. If they win this game, you know what? We are going to this championship game in New Orleans. And my brother goes, you're crazy. There's no chance we're going to this game. How are we going to get tickets? And it's like, we will find a way. We will find a way. Sure enough, Syracuse wins. I call Air Canada, book two tickets. They were very expensive because they were at the last minute. There was no last second deals back in 2003. You paid more, not less. So we got on a plane. We sat in first class. We went to New Orleans probably for 36 hours. That's how long the trip was. We didn't, because I literally told my boss on the Friday, hey, Syracuse wins on Saturday. I'm not coming Monday. I'm not coming Tuesday.
I'm not coming into work.
I'm coming on Wednesday, and I'll tell you that we won the title.
That's
and he's like, sure, Lionel, whatever, no problem. Okay. So I called him like Saturday night after I booked. I say, we won the game. I already bought the tickets, and I'll see you on Wednesday. I tell you, I'll bring my Mardi Gras beads.
That's amazing.
So sure enough, we end up going in, get on the plane. We head down there. You know, we kind of walk around. It's like the tail end of Mardi Gras. It's like Mardi Gras light. Like, there's so many people around. Like, geez, in COVID times, like, it just could never happen.
Right.
So anyways, we're at this time, like 2003, if you can think back, this is like the jersey era. If you had a jersey that was 2X or smaller, like, it had to be at least a 2X. I think that was the minimum. 2X was like the stamp of approval. Anything less, pinch. Can't wear it. No dice. Now everyone wants a large jersey. So anyways, so this is my fandom with Baron Davis. So Baron Davis at that time is one of my favorite players. He just started playing for New Orleans. So we collected jerseys all over, you know, Bullish Jordan, you know, Larry Johnson jersey, you name it. We, like, me and my brother, and then another friend of mine, which is my good friend, he was my best man, Nick. We just caught jerseys. Like, we spent every penny we had copping jerseys and shoes. So we ultimately, like, we go into this mom and pop store, and they didn't speak very good English. So it kind of makes the story funny because she couldn't believe what we were doing. So we walk in, look around, find a pair of Jordans that I wanted to buy. My brother bought the same pair, just in his size, and we look up and we see the teal and white. Like white was a rarity for any NBA jersey. Baron Davis #1 jersey. Waiver over. Can we get 3 of each of those jerseys, please?
Damn.
XX. And she goes, what? You mean 3 jerseys total? No. 3 jerseys of each color. That's what we need. Plus these 2 Jordans. Well, anyways, we bought them. You know, my brother, you know, decides to go, you know, right outside the stadium and starts to chat with guys trying to find tickets. We end up, you know, after about an hour, we found tickets. We go into the game. We're sitting on the very edge of the Syracuse section in the upper bowl. Syracuse wins. If you remember, Hakeem Warwick blocks a 3-point shot at the end of the game. They win. We didn't sleep that night. We got kicked out of the bar at 7 a.m. And he says, like, we don't have to stop partying. I just have to go home and get some sleep. So
from that, it was a wrap. Like, you flew there, and like Melo,
done.
Like a wrap that you were a Melo fan for the rest of your life.
Yeah, 100%. He went to Denver. Perfect. I'm buying both Denver jerseys. Done. I think I have the blue one on. So, anyways, yeah. And I've been a fan. And then it was like, so I'm a Knicks fan. And then can you imagine the rumor starts swirling that maybe he goes to New York. I was like, I'll give the whole team. I don't care. And everyone still says to this day they overpaid. Nope. Because guess what? You have to overpay to get the best player in the deal. Where are the other guys?
I mean, Gallinari's in Atlanta. Felton, is out of the league, and like we're talking 9 years later. But I agree. I agree. I agree. You know, they talk about that show. Oh, and like I understand it from the point of they could have used those pieces to get other pieces. I understand that, but at the end of the day, you can always get different You can always get role players in free agency. You can't always get a star in free agency. No. So when you have that opportunity, you take it.
We did, and hey, you know what? That was probably most recently, like probably since the 99 run when they were the 8 seed and they beat the Heat. Like that is like the apex of what we were. Like we had that. We had Melo. Like the game was fun. We had Tyson Chandler that was blocking shots. We had Grant High in the backcourt and Jason Kidd. Like it was like, and it was like much watch TV. Like let's see what happens. So
and we'll get into the Knicks part. Because this podcast, really, it's about Melo's media day availability, and like he had some interesting quotes. We know a lot of things now that we didn't know a week ago. So fuck it, we could start with that one. One of the things that Melo was asked about, actually by Mark Berman. I don't know how Mark Berman got on to ask a Blazers player a question, but he talked about he asked Melo, what were his thoughts on returning to the Knicks and everything like that. And Melo said, Portland was the right fit at this point in time with where I'm at right now, this particular year. So when I hear that, I think a lot of like, he's definitely not closing the door on Knicks return. And he's like, right now, this year, where I'm at right now. It's just like a lot of like, right now. So you just talked about the Knicks a little bit. Do you want to see him back in New York? And if so, when?
Oh, wow. So to answer the question, do I want him as a Knick? 100% I do. I think there is so much. He's not Chris Paul when you talk about a veteran working with young guys.
Right.
I think there is a ton that he can offer from a mentor's perspective. Like a lot of these kids, play, like there's guys on Portland that love him because he was their favorite player.
Yep.
Whether it was in Denver, whether it was in New York. So I think there's a ton that he can offer. And if you look at the Knicks team, it's all young guys now. Like even, a seasoned veteran on that team is Julius Randle, which I hope they trade. But anyway, that's a whole different topic and maybe a whole podcast I could take on my dislike for Randle. So, but yeah, I think maybe it's not this year. I'd like to hopefully believe it's next year when free agency kind of aligns itself, he probably has to like wait a little longer and see if they can land a star, if he can convince a star to kind of go there, and not to even be second or third fill. Like I think,
Right.
you know, on that team, you know, you're talking about, you know, RJ, and you're talking about Robinson. Like those would be the stars. Again, I told you Randall's got to be off the team by then because he's just going to suck up ball. But anyways, I think that's the opportunity that he has to be part of the Knicks. And it would be a great story. It's almost similar, but Melo's in a way better spot than
Right.
Vince Carter coming back to the Raptors.
100%.
At this particular juncture, we know that Melo can score between, you know, 12 and 16 points a game. Like that is doable. Now, I know they've already talked about him being on the bench, but it's still doable. Like I think, because he's going to get crunch time points and because he's now going to play against the second unit, like,
yep.
You know, they talk about, you know, in football, let Russ cook, let Melo cook when he comes in on that second unit. So,
yep. As far as like the Knicks thing real quick, and then we'll get into the bench talk. I think what you said is like pretty on point. It didn't make sense this season just because they're not going anywhere this year. And, you know, he's 36 years old. Obviously, that's a rebuilding situation. He even talked about, like, you know, it's a rebuilding situation. Doesn't make sense for either side. Like, Melo still wants his shots. He still wants to contribute to a good team. And the Knicks still want their young guys to develop. So if Melo goes there, you're giving him shots. How does that help the young guys? So me personally, as a Knicks fan as well, I would love nothing more to see him back in New York. The only thing actually I would love more than seeing him back in New York is him winning a championship. So that's priority number one, obviously, with Portland this year. I think they have a legit shot. And, you know, in a year, maybe 2 years, like you said, if the Knicks get a star, or let's say the young guys become really good. Let's say RJ takes a big step forward. Let's say Obi is who a lot of people think he is. Let's say Mitch, let's say a couple of these guys take a step forward. They could be a borderline playoff team next year. Then you bring in even another just good player. It doesn't have to be a star. They're in the playoffs, and then Melo goes, and like you have that farewell tour, whether it's in 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Hopefully not next year, but then you have that. He can get his number retired. They better retire his number. I saw that every time the Knicks roster comes out, the training camp roster, I always check. I'm like, did they give number 7 out? And they haven't yet. So, I'm happy about that. But I think he wants to be back in New York at the end of the day. I say this all the time. He never wanted to leave. You know, it was something where they were like, yo, Melo, you're, what was he, 33, 34 at the time? They're like, we're going to rebuild again. So give us a list of teams you want to go to the Rockets. And then work out. Then uptrade him to the Thunder. But as far as the bench thing, anything else to add about the Knicks shit, or?
No, I think you kind of wrapped it up. I think it's timing. It's not should he or could he? It's more when should he do it? Like exactly. It should happen. It should happen. It would be a great story. I think and beyond that, basketball terms, I think there's a lot that he can offer those guys, like preparation, you know, work ethic, like all of these different things, like these intangibles that, again, like, you know, we'll talk about narrative later, but he just doesn't get the credit that he deserves when it comes to putting in work. Like this guy, like spent like 15 months. No one give him a sniff. He could have helped 3/4 of the NBA. And no one would give him a chance. What did he do? Shut his mouth, put up shots, put up shots, put up shots. Play with this kid, put up shots. And here we are.
Yeah.
In the Portland jersey. So
great point. Fucking fire, by the way. I love the Jordan logo on those. Makes it look so much
fun. I had to get this one.
I love that. That's fire.
They put it
all right. You quickly you mentioned it a little bit, him coming off the bench. It's pretty much official now.
Yeah.
The coach came out and said it. The GM came out and said it. Melo came out and talked about it. How do you feel about it, straight up?
I think, you know, from the times that he was in OKC and definitely in Houston, it's a whole different story. It's completely different. I don't think at this juncture of his career does he need to start. hey, he starts and he can run around and not get any shots, and then he's on the bench. He gets 2 fouls. Like, I think he can be in better control of not only game flow and who he's now playing against. I think it's almost to his advantage now, because he's still going to end up, they're going to want him to be on the floor. Like, the bubble showed us that he should be on the floor in crunch time.
That was huge. So underrated, by the way.
That you can't, like, I was at the Toronto game January 5th, so just before, or 7th, just before lockdown, and I had the time of my life. That is the highlight of 2020 for me. Watching Melo go off on the Raptors and bury the game winner. Like, my friends all messaged me, okay, you got us. You got us. And it's like,
that was amazing.
Yeah, right, we got you.
That was amazing.
Hey, Melo.
That was amazing. So you're cool with it for the most part, because you think that he'll just like be in a better flow and like he could focus on scoring.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. I like, first reaction, obviously, when you hear that, because of what we've been through, and like, obviously we're fucking fans, but like specifically him, what he's been through over the past few years, your first reaction, or mine at least, was like, fuck, here we go again. Like, they're going to bring him off the bench. Like, he's not going to get any shots. He's going to play 20 minutes a game. And just like all this shit starts going through your mind. But you're right. It's so different. And Houston, they didn't, from what he said, they didn't communicate that with him going into the season. OKC, that just came from a reporter in training camp. So that was kind of literally out of the blue. His kind of thought on all this has always been, just communicate with me. And no team has done that. Portland has been the first team to do that with him. Even when he came last year, he was like, yo, what is going to be my role? Obviously, he was comfortable enough with what his role was going to be to sign there.
Whatever it was, like at this point of his career, is like, okay, you tell me what I need to do and I'm playing. Right.
Yeah. And I think something that he said during the interview, which was really important, was like, he said something along the lines of, it's not like I'm not good enough to be a starter. I think everybody knows, like, it's not that. It's not like, yo, you aren't good enough to be on the starting lineup. It's just that, you come in, instead of playing the first, let's say, 6 minutes, right? Instead of playing the first 6 minutes, getting maybe 2 shots because Dame's, has to get in the zone. CJ is getting his shots. Nurk is getting his shots. And you go out there, and that's just 6. I don't want to say it's wasted minutes, but it's not minutes best utilized for Melo, because he's out there, maybe, like you said, maybe he picks up 2 quick fouls and then like he doesn't get in that zone. So I'm kind of looking forward to it, because, he'll just come off the bench. He'll be going against a lot of secondary guys. He's obviously not a secondary guy, even at 36. And his job will literally be to score. Of course, rebound the basketball, play defense and shit like that. But like, he is in there to score. Like, he can score like almost nobody in history. Yeah. Still to this day, obviously.
That's the amazing thing to see what's ahead of us. Again, like, we're on some legendary thing. Like, people are probably not even comprehending at this point. Like, he's 15th in scoring. He can jump like with like, I think it's like 12.5 points, something in that range, between 12 and 13. He can be like number 10 or number 9.
He will.
Scoring.
He will. This season he will be. Yeah.
All-time scoring. Like, that is unreal. When I said he's a walking bucket, he is.
Yeah. I think that's when people will kind of wake up and be like, holy shit, like, Melo really is a legendary scorer, when he cracks that top 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I just think that as long as he comes in, and as long as he starts, as long as he ends the game, like you talked about the bubble, in retrospect, obviously they needed those shots from Melo to make the playoffs, because they needed to literally win every single game that they won to make that play-in game. And then obviously they needed to win 1 out of 2. But anyway, those shots at the end of the game not only helped the Blazers make the playoffs, they also prolonged Melo's career, because now, like, he's proven again, I don't know why he had to prove it again, but he's now proved again that he should be in the game in clutch moments late in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
So I just think that just can't be overstated, how important how important those shots were to his career.
Yeah. Well, it's they call it the clutch gene.
Yeah.
And you know, again, like he had that in 2003 when he's in Syracuse. He had that when he dropped 61 when he was a Knick.
62.
62, excuse me. So
LeBron dropped 61. I'll never forget that.
That's right, because he has the record for MSG, right? So, so like it just doesn't go away, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's part you feel no fear when you're in that moment. I don't. I'm sure that's part of it. You know, Kobe and rest in peace. But LeBron and some of the other great closers probably could all tell you that there's just a feeling that you have. You don't fear the shot. You want it, and you are upset if someone else takes it. Dame's got the same thing, right? So I think, it's very unique how the two of them, kind of work off of each other. And Melo's okay in his, his time in his career that he'll be ready to take the shot. And if he has to take the shot, he will make it. But he doesn't feel like he needs to be the first option anymore. Right. When he was in New York, different story. That ball better be going to numbers there. That's it.
Absolutely. Fair. So let's get on to another topic that was brought up during Melo's media availability. Neil Olshey. So this is kind of relevant to the whole bench situation. The Blazers GM Neil Olshey, I don't know how that's pronounced. But obviously when Melo was in Houston, Daryl Morey told Melo something that wasn't true about his role and then all that. And then obviously we know that they parted ways with Melo and then didn't trade him until 2 months later. So they were kind of asking him, like, why do you feel comfortable now doing this, whatever. And when Melo was talking about the Blazers GM, he said, I could be in another situation like I was in Houston. Neil was very open and honest and upfront with me that he wouldn't allow that. He wouldn't do that. And then Melo also went on to talk about how him and Neil spoke about his legacy and how he's never really spoken about, like, his legacy like that with a GM of a team he was playing for. So what do you think, just kind of hearing Melo give props to the GM just for the transparency and communication and just like legit care for the guy? What do you think about Neil Olshey and just what he said to Melo and how he cares about him?
Neil is a different cat. Like, he is so engaged, and you see it with the Blazers, like from the young guys to Dame to CJ to Nurk. Like, there is a culture that they have in Portland. That's where I start and end with the whole thing. Their culture in Portland is not like every other NBA team. They care about their team. They are literally a family. They will ride together and they will lose together. And that's okay. Like, whatever the result is, if they're doing it together and they're on the same page and they're truly honest with one another, they're okay. And I think it really shows that's what the GM is building a culture. And then through the coach and then obviously through the star players that are all stars, they all believe it. So for a GM to now talk about, as we were talking about, a guy that's going to be, in the next, hopefully this season, if not the beginning of next, a top 10 all-time scorer, that his legacy is important. And for a GM to really recognize that, hey, we're on the verge of something very, very special, and we wanted to see it in a Blazers jersey, I think it says a lot about how he manages people, on how he leads his people. And I think it says a lot about him as a person.
100%. Don't know if I could have said it any better than that. Like, and I don't know. I guess I just look back at the Houston days, the OKC days, and even the New York days where just like there was such, I don't even know if it was a bad relationship, but no relationship between, what seemed to be the star players and the front office. I mean, maybe for Houston with Harden, I'm sure they have not anymore, but I'm sure they had a really good relationship with Harden. Westbrook and OKC and shit like that. But then when you look at New York, like obviously the whole Melo Phil thing never worked out. Not on Melo's, not because of Melo, in my opinion, but you go through what you went through in New York, as like we're talking about Melo. You go through what you went through in New York, then in OKC, where you know, they asked him to take a back seat. He did that, and then next season they wanted him to take another back seat, and they were kind of blaming him for Paul George going 2 for 60. And I'm not even gonna get into it.
You shoot Paul shots?
I'm not even gonna go into that. He shot 2 for 16 and shit like that last game, but it was Melo's fault when he took 7 shots. Anyway, and then in Houston, obviously we know what happened there, just like a lack of communication. So just all that combined, anything would have been an upgrade. But I think especially when you have somebody like Neil Olshey who seems like he really cares, like legit cares, not just fake cares, because it's not like he's just saying this to the media. Apparently he was telling Melo this. So I just think it's dope, and I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, it's almost like, again, I think they talk about it a lot. You probably have mentioned it before on a previous podcast. Like, Melo going to Portland was meant to be. Like, there was so many opportunities, and Dame and him talked, and management talked about, hey, we want you to be in Portland, but it just didn't work out. Again, we talk about timing, and the timing, it just didn't work out, but it was always on the radar. And, you know, then all of a sudden, you know, before last year, the rumors started swirling. It's like, oh, maybe Portland is the team. They're all banged up. And then you found out there was like a love affair between, you know, Melo and Portland behind the scenes. And they started talking for real. And sure enough, you know, because Nurk was hurt and all of those other things that, you know, that they were just banged up bad. And they gave Melo a shot. And look where we are now. Yeah,
great point. Something that has taken the internet by storm today. We're recording this on Monday, December 7th. Cornrows Melo, Braids Melo. I have to see what the poll was. I tweeted out a poll on Control the Narrative's Twitter, and I also put a poll on Instagram to see what is the right nickname. Is it Cornrows Melo, Braids Melo? On Twitter right now, it's 63% Cornrows, 36% Braids, and on Instagram, I think it was like pretty close to 50-50. So it's a thing now. Obviously, Melo came into the league with those cornrows, those braids. I kind of like braids better, but we'll let you voice your opinion in a second. How many points do you think Melo is going to average with these braids? Because as we know, everybody talks about Denver Melo and just that being a whole thing. In New York, he did not have the braids. Towards the end of his Denver tenure, he did not either. But do you think that this is a better superpower than the hoodie?
No, let's not be confused. That is just ridiculous. Braids or cornrows, call them what you want. I call them cornrows because that, you know, again, it kind of, you know, spawned from the Allen Iverson era. That's kind of why I draw it, the comparison or the lineage between the two. Hoodie Melo is just a whole different thing. Like, you see him in the gym putting up shots with the hoodie on and never missing. Hoodie Melo is, I don't know how is it. It's at least 7 years old, and it's still a thing. Like, people still talk about, oh, I'm getting cooking. I got the hoodie on. I'm Hoodie Melo, or I'm Hoodie, whatever your name is.
All right, that's fair.
So no, like, Hoodie Melo is like legendary.
It is. It is. All right. So maybe I went a little overboard. Maybe I just got really excited seeing the braids again. How about this? How many points will he average with the braids now? Because it is a different Melo. It's different than mini fro Melo, which we kind of saw last year, and like, you know, 3 on top, 1 on the side, tape up Melo that we saw a lot in New York and OKC. So how many points do you think he's going to average now with the cornrows, taking that into consideration?
I'd love to. I would love to believe, and I truly believe that this will give him, you know. So I kind of told you where he needed to be this year. I really believe, you know, praying for health. I know we lose a couple games because it's a shortened season. I think we are like 13.5 to 14 points a game. Like, obviously taking in bench, obviously taking in that this is not last year, so Nurk is healthy. You know, they got a full squad. They're deep, like crazy deep. There's going to be times that it's going to feel like they don't need him, and there's going to feel like times that they're going to need him a lot. So I think we're kind of cooking in that, you know, 13.5 to 14.5 range, and I think by April we will be
Top 10.
Waving the banners saying top 10 scorer all time.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait. That's a great point. I really I guess I didn't think about that too much, and I'm sure a lot of other people don't. Last year when Melo put up 15, what was it, 15.6 or something like that. Obviously Nurk was out for the entire year up to the bubble. No Zach Collins. Rodney Hood went down pretty early after Melo got there. They really were thin, and Melo had to do that. Melo had to put up 15 in order for them to compete. And I think that's an interesting point. Like, obviously, they got a couple really good players around Melo's position. You know, Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington, Zach Collins is coming back. Enes Kanter plays. I don't know if he plays 4. I know, obviously, he's a 5. I don't know if he plays 4
or 5. So I again, you know, like, and I say 13 and a half, you know, that could be the range. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 10 and a half to 11 and a half, because again, if they're healthy, this is like preservation. Like, he could play a whole nother year and not get worn down, because he was playing major minutes. He was playing 30+ minutes, you know, and hey, Boone was playing banged up, CJ was playing banged up, and hey, you know, they were fighting for their season. Like, it was playoffs in like
all 8 games.
February. It was playoffs for them. It was like do or die. They had to like win games to get in the hunt, and then the bubble happened, and they get in the bubble and say, okay, so you can lose 1 game. That's it. Otherwise, you're out. And really, the Suns made it that way, because they went 8-0 and like we're literally on our tail all the way through.
Yep.
So,
and then the Grizzlies,
kind of crazy.
And then obviously, like, I think I've said this like maybe once over the past 3 weeks, but that last game versus Brooklyn, when they found Melo in the corner and he missed it, and they were up 1, and then Karis LeVert came down and he was on fire all night, and had CJ, who had a broken bone in his back or some shit like that, broken vertebrae or whatever it was, and Karis had him 1-on-1 to win the game and send the Blazers home after Melo just missed that 3. Yo, I swear to God, I was sitting on my bed, like, legit, like, fucking just knowing, yo, everything was everything was up in the air. Like, if Karis LeVert hit that shot, the narrative would have been reset, and it would have had to been controlled all over again. So I just like think about that, and like I get goosebumps now just because it was so wild. But yeah, good point on that. All right, Elmac, we've reached the end of the podcast here. I've been on for 37 minutes, so longer than the past podcast. So
lots of juice.
we do. I want to give you some time, like we give all of our guests some time, to control a narrative. So it can be Melo related, Jordan jersey related, literally related to anything you want. I'm going to give you the floor and let you control the narrative.
Okay. Again, I think I kind of talked about, Melo and, what he's on the verge of potentially this season. And I think, as we go through the history of Carmelo Anthony, and really you can just talk about the NBA, his career and what that's looked like. He's been obviously, measured against LeBron, and hey, there's been, LeBron's got 4 titles, LaMelo doesn't even have, a finals appearance, and hey, LeBron's so much better, and this, that, and the other. But I think, situations and a lot of things kind of play into what your end result is. You can look at NBA legends, you look at Charles Barkley, and you can look at Karl Malone and many other people that are out of this world talents. Hakeem Olajuwon doesn't have 2 titles if Jordan decides not to retire. That is straight facts. But I think when you look at what Carmelo has contributed to the game of basketball, from I wouldn't say that he changed the game like some people say Steph Curry changed the game. But when you look at, at a basketball player, whether this person played in the 2000s or the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, Carmelo's ability to use true fundamentals with footwork, with working high post, off the wing, and one of the greatest two-ball shooters we will ever see. I think it's just amazing to take away and really think about. This guy went to, he got drafted by the Nuggets. He went to the Knicks, and had some great time there. He went to OKC. He then went to the Rockets, and both those last two stops were terrible. And then now he's on the Blazers. So 5 teams over his career. And, he doesn't have a championship. He's got lots of all-star appearances, but what's an all-star? I think when you really look at Carmelo Anthony, this person is an out-of-this-world talent. And yes, he has physical gifts. Younger in his career was, he could jump and he could do all of these things. But I think when you look at his ability to score the basketball in the variety of ways that he does, he is in very elite company when we're talking about that. Go look at some of his, best career, not only games, but seasons. He is an absolutely elite scorer of the basketball. And I don't think he gets enough credit. We're talking about him not getting an opportunity in Houston. We're not talking about what he did in New York, what he did, in the first 10 years of his career. We're talking about the last 3. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So don't get caught up on the present. Look at the whole picture. And that's the narrative I want you. Look at the legacy we're talking about his GM trying to save. Carmelo is an unbelievable player. And I'm not even going to get into, you have to invite me part 2 to talk about the Olympics, because that is a whole different ball of wax on how amazing Carmelo Anthony was playing for USA.
Wow. Yeah. Recency bias is a bitch. That's all that this is. It's literally just, people who not even started watching the past 3 years, but just not even the first 10 years of his career, the first 15.
Yeah.
10-time All-Star in 15 years. Maybe even 14. I don't know. But yeah, that's all it is. Just recency bias, people not doing their homework, people talking out of their ass, and people, just at the end of the day, it all just comes down to having a short memory. If social media was around like it was today, when Melo was dunking on people every other day and hitting game-winning shots every other fucking day and shit like that, maybe it might be different, but it wasn't back then. And for a lot of players, obviously it's not just like it was fucking Melo, but yeah, it's all recency bias. So that was all very well said. And I think sometime in the future we might just have to have a USA Olympic episode. They have the 2021 Olympics coming up. Don't think Melo's going to be a part of that.
No.
I'm praying that LeBron is not a part of it.
I don't think he will be. I think, again, you talk about LeBron needs to save himself. And again, no one knows what he's planning. He signed a 2-year deal, and I don't want to get into LeBron, talking about Carmelo, but I'm telling you, LeBron's playing 3 years, and for sure, barring injury, and he wants to play with this kid. That's what I honestly believe.
I'm sure. Yeah, man.
He wants to do the Griffey.
Yeah, it seems like it for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Elmac. Well, we've reached the end, man.
All right.
We'll definitely have to get you on for some Olympic episode in the future. So check for your Instagram DMs over the next 7 months, whatever the fuck it is, whenever that shit starts. So appreciate the time, man. Appreciate you literally coming
happy to do this.
Literally appreciate you coming back from work, putting on 3 jerseys, because you have 3 jerseys on, right?
Yeah, there's Knicks,
Portland, Knicks, and Denver. Respect. And just hopping on here. Always good talking to you, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot as the season comes on and goes throughout the season.
Sounds good to me. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about my favorite player of all time.
Of course, dude. Talk to you soon, bro.
All right, man. Take it easy.